Welcome to Web3 and Me, a weekly show where we talk about all things third-generation web technologies. I'm your host, Eugene Capon, with my co-host,
Red Romina.
That's right. And today we're going to be talking about becoming the influencer you were always meant to be.
Wow. Is this a Disney movie? It sounds like a Disney movie.
It does sound a little bit like a Disney movie.
This would be a Disney movie that comes out in like 2030, in the year 2030. And we're all just like, all the parents are just like, oh God, we have to go take our kids to watch this.
I think you would have made an awesome Mouseketeer, to be honest.
Not gonna lie, that was a dream. That was a dream.
And I think you're probably old enough that if you were a Mouseketeer, you would have been in the same generation as Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake, right?
Yes. Yep.
Because they were
100%.
Yeah.
What could have been?
I was always jealous of them. Look, when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be a professional hockey player.
Yo, I could see that. Like, you look like you would be a hockey player too. Like, if I saw you down the street, I would be like, that man, he's definitely a hockey player.
I actually played hockey when I was a kid, up until like the Pee Wee leagues. And what?
Nothing. It just sounds funny.
The Pee Wee leagues, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is before like Washington ever had an NFL or a NHL team ever. So like, because we were living out on the Tulalip Indian Reservation, my mom was having to wake me and my sister up at 4 a.m. to take us to practice, and she just couldn't do it anymore, like physically. So that was the end of that.
RIP.
Yeah. But even though I was a lot smaller than everybody, I was actually one of the faster kids on the ice, and I was a right wing, and I was actually really, really good at it. So what could have been?
What could have been? That's the anthem for so many of us, isn't it? What could have been? But we can take actionable steps today and change our course and become the best influencer you were always meant to be.
Best you.
The best version of you.
Yeah. So I think probably one of the best things that people tend to not do when it comes to like being an influencer is repetition and consistency.
And being influential.
Well, I think everybody at some point is the unknown, right? Like whenever you start out, nobody knows who you are. Nobody's seen anything that you've done. And it is often very hard and discouraging to break in. And so, by keeping that repetition, continuously improving over time, you can actually grow that presence. I mean, like, Matt, you have a great following. When you show up, other people show up. But when you first started, I don't think people probably were showing up for your spaces, right? It took time to build that audience.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're talking to me.
Yeah, it's you.
Yeah, we were talking to you.
Okay, sweet. Sorry, yeah, literally, as you were talking, the missus come by and asked me something, and that completely threw me off. Yeah, you know, I think, I mean, I suppose it's kind of a strange one because I've got a bit of an advantage, obviously, because I already have a community because of Mad, obviously, and then through that. Select sort of few, very dedicated community members were joining up to it consistently, which then allowed those Twitter spaces to grow, exponentially, to a degree. Although at the same point, like, even though I was being quite consistent with that, as the market was sort of changing, we were sort of like heading into a bear market. Those Twitter spaces ended up sort of reducing over time. That's sort of a big play on it. So, but yeah, you're absolutely bang on about the consistency side of it. Like that's one of the absolute key factors, to doing it. I made a real big point, like when setting up the Twitter spaces for Mad, that I was like looking at what other spaces were playing and were live at the time, so that I didn't like try and clash with any big spaces. But then I sort of found out that you can't really, you can't gauge it that way and you had to sort of just roll with the punches. If you really have to do it, because like it's more about what times like your community and the people that often listen, what they're used to. Like I'm so used to now with this space being, on a Thursday at 5 p.m. my time, obviously not so much your guys, it's in the morning for you lot. So, and that's consistency really helps like the rest of the Mad community also know that this is where we're going to be on this particular day. So,
yeah, but I think going back to my point, before Mad was ever a community, and you had your first gathering around that project idea and movement. What was that very first one like compared to like now?
yeah, I must admit, that's what's kind of like strange about it is that the community sort of came first, and then Twitter Spaces came out. So, and we were doing those live streamings on Discord before that, and then obviously like migrated over to Twitter Spaces. So yeah, even that very first one was like quite big. Well, I say quite big, like 30 people maybe turned out. But like what I often found with it though is I actually ended up having a lot more people coming in afterwards to listen to the show, to the recording, than actually turn up live like to that space. So yeah, it's so but I mean like building the community itself was I once again like at the time I'm not gonna say it was relatively easy to do because there's still a lot of work involved. 60+ hour weeks. Trying to like get these people interested, in a project, and especially since like nothing had been built yet. There weren't any NFTs released. The game wasn't released. Etc. So trying to get people involved it was like a fairly uphill battle to begin with. And I think like one of the biggest factors for that was like definitely Reddit. Like so many of our following came from Reddit, but mostly because I think there's just so many gamers like over there, so that play a really really big part in bringing them converting them essentially. And there was apparently a lot more Web3 peeps there than I was like expecting. And obviously since like they did all their Reddit avatar their NFT stuff, like turns out there's actually a lot of Web3 aficionados on Reddit, even though despite that Reddit didn't even mention NFTs or Web3 when they released their NFTs. Like, there was
Yeah,
no mention of it.
those are just called digital collectibles, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that's like one of the smartest things. That really started something, especially for like Web3 gaming. Even though it was like already something that a select group of people were already saying. It's definite to see like when you go look through other Web3 games, like the ones that are doing the best at the moment and like are at the top of their game, are the ones that aren't even talking about Web3. They aren't talking about owning your own digital assets. They aren't doing any of that. They're not. Even though there are wallets involved, obviously, it's like it's all custodial as well. So, you wouldn't even know that you have this wallet that has these digital assets on there, unless you really go digging and looking for it. So
I think that was probably one of the smartest moves that Reddit could have made.
mhm.
I mean NFTs to anybody outside of like forward thinking NFT communities, to the common person, people who are into NFTs are annoying. To be honest,
Yeah.
like we fall within the category of like vegans and people who do CrossFit.
I never thought I'd be put into the same into the
I
same
mean, there's
grouping.
nothing wrong with being a vegan. There's nothing wrong with having a CrossFit membership. There's nothing wrong with owning NFTs. But if you do one of those things, everybody else are going to know it because you've told them, right?
I'm still not even 100% certain what CrossFit even is. To be honest.
It's a workout cult. That's all you need to know.
There you go. Then yeah, that's probably why I don't know much about it.
It's pretty common here in the US.
Yeah, I think it has started becoming quite popular here. I watched No, this I don't know if anyone else watched this, but oh, it was a Netflix show, and I've just forgotten the name of it. Perfect Body 101. It was basically like a bunch of Asian athletes that all got together to compete against one another to see like what the perfect like athlete's body essentially looked like. That wasn't the name of it, and I really got it now because it was so good. It was so good. I was enthralled by it. But and yeah, like the best, like when you got towards the end and when there was only like 10, maybe a dozen or so of these athletes left, it turned out like at least half of them were like CrossFit athletes. Like that was like their, because they're just so well rounded. Like they had the agility, the technique, and the strength to like to do all of it essentially. And yeah, in the end, the bloke who won it as well was a CrossFit athlete of some description. So that sort of made me more interested. Maybe I need to go look at some classes or something. So to be honest, all my exercise is running around after my kids. So I don't need to like add on
So
to
you
that.
have dad strength then, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Dad bod strength. Like that's the thing. Like that's generally definitely a thing. And the energy to go with it as well. Even just saying it now makes me makes me ill to my stomach. No, I used to be a lot healthier actually before I had kids. that's the that's the true reality of it. I don't quite know why that worked out that way. You get lazy as a parent, like you don't get lazy, obviously, but like you care less about yourself once you have kids. Like they become like the focus point. So
They become the weights when you lift them up, right? And you play with them, you
yeah.
throw them above your head. You're like, man, I got good triceps. It's because of these damn kids.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. In fact, was it you, Eugene, or was it Romina that posted something? I think I saw you might have been talking on someone else's tweet the other day about kids. I think it might have been you, Eugene. Something about you and your missus.
Yeah. So I just got done watching my niece and nephew. Kelsey and I were watching them for a month and a half while their mom was back in China. She had an ID issue and had to stay there for about a month and a half. And so I kind of became a full-time parent for a little while. And I absolutely I love them. We plan on having kids at some point. I realize I'm pushing 40. Kelsey is a lot younger than me by about 7 years. And so she's at the point where she's like, hey, I really want to start a family. And so I don't know if it's the universe, but as soon as like she said that, other people started calling me up out of the blue going, hey, when are you having a family? And my thought process was, hey, have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
Yeah, of
And
course.
and they
Yeah,
and they
I would love
go, yeah. I'm like, that's why I don't have kids yet. They're like, oh, that makes sense.
I mean, I think it's one of those really interesting things, right? Because I think you're probably you know, in the sort of position. I can only assume, like from what I know of you anyway, Eugene. But like for me, like one of the main things was like sorting out my career and my like financials, like before I even really considered like starting a family, which like took me well into my mid 30s, like into my 30s, like before I even really achieved that. So yeah, that's a big part of it. And I think you probably you have that covered, if I'm right in thinking, Eugene. Yeah, you're pretty. I think I'd say you're pretty apt there, right?
I would say I have my retirement figured out. And I made sure to take care of that first before anything else. And now I'm currently building my second company, or actually, holy crap, this is my, I think this is technically my fourth company. It's just, I already have one that's active. So I own like a design agency and we build virtual worlds for companies. Like that's what we do. We also do like commercials and websites and stuff. The problem with that is when you own a services company, it's not a steady cash flow coming in, even as a creator. And so my new kind of like way of thinking about this is, okay, I no longer need to be in the money business. I need to be in the empire business, because empires have continuous cash flows while businesses don't. So the first thing I've done is I've started a power company, and kind of our first offering is gas stations pay like 60 grand a year in like credit card processing fees. And so we've teamed up with some other providers, and we figured out how to basically make it zero.
Ah, very nice. Yeah, that's yeah, that's a win straight off the bat. I'm thinking already. I'm guessing it's like blockchain based. Hopefully, like fingers crossed.
It's not. So really, there's a couple of different things that we're doing. One is we're supporting Fresh Air Coin, which is a cryptocurrency that is used to basically keep track of carbon offset credits for oil and gas companies.
That's really cool. Okay. Okay, so that's super interesting. Like that's something I have like quite a bit of experience in as well. Like I've worked for a couple of different projects that were tokenizing or attempting to tokenize carbon credits. So like, and yeah, one of the biggest things is like trying to actually create like carbon sinkholes. And so it's not really about uh capturing carbon, but actually more about reducing the amount of carbon coming out of certain sources. So, like for a petrol station, I suppose like that's like a really high carbon emitter. So, yeah, if there's anything you could do to reduce that and then like gain carbon credits from that at the same time, that's like yeah, you could move that into a blockchain project, right? So
Oh,
that's a win.
oh, 100%. So we do have a hand up. Hey, you don't need to put your hand. You just jump in when you hear an available spot.
Yeah, hi guys. Hi Eugene. Hi Red. Not wanting to backtrack, but I just got stuck in my head. I mean, what was it about the movie Idiocracy that made you not wanting to have kids just yet?
Oh, no, no,
have
no.
you seen the movie?
I think I seen because I know the actor, but I don't remember the plot or what was it about. I mean,
So
was it about?
So
Yeah.
basically, the plot line of the movie Idiocracy is, well, there's the metaphorical plot line, then there's the actual plot line. The metaphorical plot line is smart people waited to have kids, even though they probably have the best genetic material to pass on, and people who are less intelligent tend to have lots of kids like they get pregnant easier because they don't take the precautions they probably should, and therefore there's now more dumb people in the world versus smart people, and it's just obliterated the world's IQ.
Oh, so it's a documentary about real life.
Kind of, yeah. It's a foretelling, right? And so when this guy who I hadn't talked to in probably a decade called me up and was like, "Hey, why don't you have kids?" I used that example as like, "Hey, this is why I don't have kids. I've done all the planning because I'm within that first category, and we haven't had kids because of it."
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
we want to
Understood.
make sure we want to make sure our foundation is sound before we have kids.
Don't you think we're actually like moving even closer to the reality of idiocracy, like now, especially with everyone jumping on Prime, like it's crack or something?
Oh, are we talking about the influencer drink?
Yeah, yeah. Because in the film, obviously they stop drinking water and they start drinking like Gatorade and shit instead.
Yeah, so Prime is Brando, right?
It's what's like Brando.
Yeah, Gatorade in the movie Idiocracy is called Brando.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. There you go then. Yeah, except like, I mean, just typical of like anything Logan Paul though. It's a complete scam. Like that's what. Like, not only did he like release like multiple scam crypto projects, but it turns out that Prime is absolute scam as well. So it's not even a proper sports drink, essentially, like what I found out very recently. I think I actually might have talked about this on a recent space. I don't think now I'm wondering if it was actually this space before, but I hope not.
I think it was this space. I will say that a number of influencers are all in trouble for pushing cryptocurrency scams to their followers. I believe there's a $1 billion lawsuit that is pointed at a
Yeah.
whole bunch of different influencers for their participation
Yeah,
within these
including
scams.
Coffeezilla as well, which is like quite surprising because he like generally doesn't do much of that shill stuff, but obviously like tries to find, scams and shit. But yeah, even he's been like added into that. And another bloke that I watch as well, I'll remember his name in a minute. I obviously don't like him that much if I can't even remember his name. But he's essentially a real estate bloke, and yeah, no, I've forgotten his name. It's gone. But yeah, there's quite a few involved with that, and I can't remember exactly. I think it might be something to do with Luna, possibly. I can't remember exactly which project it's involving.
I think that happens because a lot of creators will take opportunities and not look into them. That is something very real that happens, aside from scams, which is also something that just naturally happens as well, especially with a space that's unregulated or new, or these things just kind of happen. But with creators, they're so desperate to take on sponsorships or any kind of brand deals that they'll just say yes to anything. And that happens more often than not. And then they end up hurting their brand, putting their audience in danger, even with the most insignificant thing, like getting some kind of brand deal from a clothing line, or from a wallet, and maybe they don't even know where these products were manufactured, or what the company stands for, or like maybe the company is a scam and they're actually just taking people's money and they're not delivering the t-shirts that they promised, right? It could be as simple as that, where you don't think, how can a t-shirt company scam anybody? Well, it happens. And it's a sad but true thing that happens to creators very often.
Yeah, I think one of the main parts of that lawsuit is that none of these particular influencers that were mentioned or that are actually, indicted on it, declared that it was a promotion, nor did they declare like how much they earned from doing those promotions, which I know that's like a big thing on YouTube. Obviously, like you can get that little bit at the top when they've put like, yeah, this includes a promotion, and it comes at the top of the YouTube video. So, how much does that like actually protect like content creators and influencers, like, or is it actually much deeper than that, and it requires even more due diligence than just simply putting at the top of a YouTube video, promotion included in this video?
So I mean, it's obviously a really good idea to let people know that this is a promotion, and especially when reviewing a product, it's really good to it's just good to be honest and transparent with your audience, always, 100%. If you feel like you need to hide something from your audience, it's probably not a good idea to shill that product to them. Period.
Yeah,
like
I
just a
think
rule of thumb.
also I'd like to talk about the audience, because I think like we're placing a lot of blame on the creators, but there's also this culture from audiences where if a creator mentions a brand or has some kind of sponsorship, they've sold out. Oh man, I can't believe you just sold out. Oh, I hate these ads, man. I pay for YouTube Premium. Like, you're getting content for free. And if a creator has to talk about a brand, don't guilt trip them. Don't make them feel like they're doing something wrong because they need to pay bills. And creating this kind of culture, this environment, is not helpful to any creator in the future, because they're going to be hesitant about letting you know when something is paid for, when it's sponsored. Legally, yeah, they should. They should say anytime that they're being sent, even if you're being sent a product for free to review and you're not getting any money, you should let your audience know, hey, by the way, I'm not getting paid anything, but this company did send me this thing for free. I'm just letting you know. Because it could shift the way that you review the product, even if you don't want to, right? Even if you don't want it to. I think it's very good to be honest and to be transparent with your audience, but also audience people who are watching YouTubers out there, don't make them feel bad if they're taking on brand deals.
Yeah, so how much would because obviously I've got like absolute zero experience in this year. I've never been offered. Actually, no, it's not true. Actually, I have been offered brand deals before, like directly for Matt. But obviously, brand protection and all that sort of completely prevents me from being able to even divulge in that even slightly. But like, how much do these brands also push you not to put up that it's a promotion, because like that definitely, like you said, it has like a major it's a major factor for me, when I see anyone in particular trying to promote a certain product. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, that company has paid this influencer. Does this influencer really believe in this product? Is it true when they say like, oh, I've been using this for 3 months, and I love it, right? It just tends to be like one of the very typical gags that you see from content creators on that. But yeah, I do really wonder how much these brands push with them not to declare it, for multiple reasons, for that in particular reason.
I have never had a brand tell me to not say it.
That's good.
Same.
I can't say that it doesn't happen. I can just say that it's never happened to me. And I've had my YouTube channel for a very long time. I've done sponsorships on Instagram. I've done sponsorships on Twitter. And I have never had a brand tell me, oh, don't tell people this isn't sponsored, or that we didn't pay you. So again, payment can come in any forms. It can be the product itself. Sometimes I've just been interested in having a backpack. So I contact the company and I'm like, hey man, if you send me this backpack for free, I'll talk about it. I'll review it. I'll do an unboxing. I'll let people know that this is the backpack that I'm using. It's going to be in all my Instagram photos. And I've done that before because, I didn't want to pay the 50 or $200 or whatever to buy that backpack. And it can also come in royalties. You can have commissions, and you can set that up so you make zero up front, and you only make money if people actually buy or use the product. Can also come in a few $100, or it can come in 5 figures.
Yeah,
And
you see that a lot with like the VPNs. Like they'll have like the part of the URL that you have to head to, like will have the influencer's name like in the URL, and that's obviously like a referral system, an affiliate system, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of akin to, if you think about commercials, right, that you see on TV. Those actors probably didn't even know those products existed before they did the commercial, right? But nobody's ragging on them for doing for doing commercials. Like, you got someone just up there talking about Capri Sun. Maybe they don't even drink Capri Sun. Maybe they've never bought a Capri Sun in their life, yet they're in a Capri Sun commercial and they're getting paid, because actors for commercials, they get paid. And not only do they get paid on the day of for working for a few hours in a day, they also get paid royalties. All right. So as long as that commercial is airing for a year, 2 years, however long that commercial is airing, they get paid every single time.
Yeah, I always
So
wonder like how well like people like Kevin Bacon do. I don't know if you guys have that advert in America, but yeah, we have this. I can't even remember who the company even is that uses him, which is like just goes to show how like much commercials don't work on me. But yeah, Kevin Bacon's been doing these adverts for this company for like the past, I don't know, he's
right,
become a
he's a
massive
brand
star.
ambassador.
Yeah. Is it like
Yeah.
an electric car?
No, I don't think it is. Oh, what would I say? It's movie tickets maybe. I really don't remember. Like that's going to annoy the crap out of me. I need to go find out now. Like what? Because like you guys obviously don't have it over your end, which is funny because he's American as well. Apparently the British people just really love Kevin Bacon. So
Who doesn't like Kevin Bacon? Bacon's in his name. We all love bacon.
Fucking love bacon. Yeah, can't deny that one. Can't deny that one. Did anyone watch the Christmas special for Guardians of the Galaxies? Actually,
Loved it.
Yeah, because they put Kevin Bacon like was in that, like obviously because of the running joke with Kevin Bacon. Anyway, but one of the things I was going to say, because a lot of this, like you said earlier as well, Romina, Red, you mentioned about the fact that influencers and content creators will snatch up any promotions that come up their way, and I totally get that, because, and this is like one of the reasons why Web3 is going to make such a mark and change everything we know about content creation and society and so on and so forth, or at least in the digital world. Because like one of the biggest issues right now with Web2 is just the very, very little amount that platforms are willing to actually pay content creators, despite the fact that it's content creators that even make these platforms as popular as they are. So I think like the biggest one is obviously, or the best, provider is YouTube, which will pay up to 50% depending on like what topic, the content is about, and they'll pay very dependent on that. But obviously with the rest of them, those percentages drop through the floor to like 30, 20, 10% of ad revenue that goes to the content creator, which is just absolutely that's just insane to me. And to a degree I kind of get it as well, because they need to worry about their profit margins, but then they're also making billions a year in profit, like a lot of these, or at least billions in revenue, for a lot of these platforms that we're obviously talking about. And for me, that's one of the reasons why Web3 is going to have a huge effect, because it's going to really take it the other way, and it's going to be able to allow content creators to monetize their content far better. And the same also goes for like advert focusing as well, so that people actually get the adverts that have any correlation with them whatsoever, which is like one of the most annoying like peeve hates for mine, is when I see adverts for stuff that I have absolutely zero interest in, especially if I've just like watched a video on YouTube, or if I've searched something on Google. That's it, I'm going to start getting bombarded by adverts for that shit, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with me. Like, that is all going to change quite rapidly with Web3, and tokenization, from where content creators actually get what they deserve, which in my opinion is like probably 90% minimal, of ad revenue. So, and you can still make a viable company like that as well, especially if all the content creators move to that platform because of the rewards and the benefit to their bottom line, for creating content.
I would like to bring up that a lot of companies will pay content creators based on their audiences and not on the amount of labor that's involved in the creation of that advert.
Yeah, I know that you're talking about a very small percentage of influencers there, right?
No, this is so basically what's happening is we have this thing called the influencer folly, where we see the biggest content creators most of the time, and they're like the top 1% of the top 1%. And because you do have all those other content creators that you probably don't know of, you don't think to include them in that selection, even though they're doing the exact same things. They're making content, they're taking ads, they're trying to build those audiences, they're trying to become the top 1% of the 1%. But because we only see like that top 1%, we think they're like 90% of the industry, just because that's our view of relativity, right? And so because there are all those other content creators who are so desperate to make a living out of doing this, it becomes almost like hey, how much for 4 ads? This amount. They're like, oh, I have 5 other creators right now, they'll do it for half that. And then it's like, oh, so I either need to sacrifice my time and quality so I can go compete with those other 5 influencers you just talked about, or I have to go say, hey, that's cool, you should hire them because they probably need the work. I can't afford to take, your business, unfortunately. And so, it starts to become this like race to the bottom, where it's like, oh, so and so does it for this, I'll do it for less. And because you're doing it for less, somebody else is going to be like, oh, they're doing it for that much, I'll do it for 10% less than that. And then it just starts eating away the entire industry.
Yeah, I have to admit as well, as a Web3 project, especially, that's had a fair bit of budget for marketing, especially like adverts and KOLs. Yeah, even I've been, you could definitely point the finger at me for doing exactly that, and because I've seen this happen as well, especially when you start talking to agencies that have got, massive, bases of influencers to go through. Generally how we sort of really stuck to it was we were like, yeah, this is what we're willing to pay per influencer. That's how much we're going to do it for. And no ifs, no buts. And what we actually found was, yeah, there was quite a few influencers that were maybe like a couple of $100 to, thousands of dollars in some cases above that, who then eventually willingly sort of came down because they realized they were going to miss out on a paycheck. Just because they were just slightly over the threshold. So yeah, I could definitely be blamed for that. And it was crazy as well. Like once again, like going back to the whole like bull market going into the bear market. There was a lot of influencers that we worked with early on in the bull market that much later on in the year, suddenly their prices had come down. Yeah, they'll come back to us like, oh, I'm willing to do the same bit for you again, but yeah, I'm going to do it for this, for this much. Because yeah, as that market really starts to set in, all of the influencers in that particular industry, i.e. Web3, their prices sort of had to come down with the with the bear market at the same time. So, where you see all these tokens dropping 90% in value, influencers in this space are doing the same thing as well, and they're going to cut their losses, just to be competitive. So like, yeah, it's crazy how it works. Like it's mad to think about.
So the way that I do it, I charge for my time, not for the amount of uh, influence that I have. And the reason why, and they usually go, yeah, but so and so influencer can do it for this much, and I go, I'm not an influencer. I own a production company. And then suddenly it changes the entire conversation of who they're talking to because
Yeah,
I mean influencers, they're great to work with. Usually they're self-taught. I'm not self-taught. I went to school for this shit. I got a bachelor's degree in social media innovation, and I got 2 associate degrees in visual communications. So I can edit video. I can do animation. I can do actual marketing. Not to like down anybody who's self-taught, but like I put the time, effort, and money up to a educational institution to know how to do this. And so when I have to evaluate doing this sort of content, this sort of like commercial content, I treat it like an actual commercial product, not a social product. And I
yeah. So
think
we started working with quite a few different agencies that were sort of aiming for that same sort of thing, where they started doing hourly rates instead. And yeah, we had much better experience, with those agencies because they were working. It's more about what time they were willing to put in, and all of it was like, monitored. There was what system did they use again? I can't remember the name of it. But we could see exactly how much work they had put in, how many hours, and see the content that came out from that as well. And yeah, that was far more of a better experience than previous experience that we'd had with agencies and influencers like individually.
whoa, I just realized, can we have more than 2 co-hosts now?
Yeah.
Oh, for the
That's
longest time is only you could only have 2 co-hosts.
Oh. Well, I've seen a few rooms with multiple co-hosts, but to be honest, I haven't noticed if it was more than two.
I haven't seen that yet. I've, as far as I'm concerned, it's still been 2 co-hosts and up to 10 speakers max. From what I've seen. So
Oh, well, hey, that's interesting. That just kind of threw me off. Uh anyway, yeah, so
Eugene, I like what you said about charging for your time and not for your influence. I would pair that also with charging for your energy. I think that charging for the amount of time and energy you spend on something is a lot more accurate than the amount of followers you have. And I think that this is especially true for, I would say, smaller creators as well, because they are the ones who typically undervalue and undersell themselves the most. Especially because, I mean, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about having that need, that desperation to have some kind of brand deal or sponsorship. And so taking on anything. And in that, you undersell yourself because you're desperate. So I think staying true to what your value is super important to not underselling yourself.
Yeah, I would look at it like this. When you hire a company to make you a commercial, you're paying for the commercial as a product. You're not paying for it to go on air. That's a separate fee. And so what typically happens with influencers is you're paying for the airtime and not necessarily for the production of the content that's being created. All these companies tend to assume that they're one in the same when they absolutely should not be. You should charge them for the production of said video with their advert in it, and then charge them a second time for it to be seen. And so if you have a pre-built audience, that's great. That's part of it. But if you need it to hit so many views past your core audience, that means you're probably going to have to spend money on advertising for that video to get seen. And now it becomes a double win for you as a content creator. And it is the normal way of getting a commercial out there into the world without it being a social run to the bottom sort of situation.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that really hits to me on this, is maybe sort of really think about it is this is sort of just what being an artist is like, right? Because I've run pubs as well, or bars as the Americans would call them. In the past, and we used to put a lot of live bands on, and generally we wouldn't really, once again, very much like what I was saying earlier about influencers, we wouldn't necessarily pay them what they were expecting. We would say, look, we want to bring in 5 bands or 4 bands for this particular night. This is what we're paying. And once again, it's just one of those really sad moments where an artist will undervalue themselves and undercut themselves to just to get that paycheck. And I think that's just one of the incredibly hard parts about being an artist. Obviously, straight off the bat is that it's all too tempting to do that. And you really shouldn't. You really you should avoid that, because if every artist didn't fall into that trap, then artists would actually be paid what they're worth for the rest of the time. And so that's a really, really big factor into all this. But the other thing I will say as well, because there's a real big problem with like social advertising and influencers versus like say TV commercials, and it's mostly comes down to metrics, down to data, because for instance, like the World Cup or the American football version, which I now can't remember the name of for some reason. Everyone's screaming at me right now. They can guarantee that they're going to have X amount of viewers, that are going to be watching those commercials. And they can more or less to a slight accuracy, of failure there. They can say exactly how many people watched that advert. And so, which is why the World Cup and other massive events like that can charge, are able to charge the just absolute ridiculous amounts, for an advert. Whereas on social media, it'd be really nice for me to just say, look, I'm willing to pay you, between this and that for every 1,000 or 10,000 views that you get. If it weren't for the fact that there's a huge risk there that they're just going to artificially bloat those numbers, because it's worth them putting that charge in, to be able to rig that, obviously. And we've had that, we've experienced that as well, in the past with certain influencers and other services as well that were offering to get like so many collabs. And so they're like, oh we'll get you 300 collabs and we'll charge you, this amount per collab. and to find out that half of those collabs were fake projects that had been artificially inflated, to fill that quota, and it's quite a good little business that they've got there, especially because to a degree, it's not even illegal. It's like one of those perfect crimes almost, or it may be illegal. I don't know. But I don't particularly. I've never heard of anyone ever, getting done for it. So, I would happily be corrected on that one, though I must admit. But yeah, that's the only thing I will add, and that's what makes it very difficult to advertise online and through social media. Influencers. I think that's one of those factors that really comes into it. The conversion rates are much lower.
Yeah, I love Super Bowl commercials. Super Bowl commercials are my number one reason for watching the Super Bowl. Like I'm not a football fan at all, but I'll sit there just for the commercials because I know it's them bringing their A game. And they they pay how many millions of dollars for that 30 seconds of airtime. And the problem is that airtime, you don't know who's on the other end. They're like, yeah, I got so many millions of impressions, but okay, who went to those impressions? Oh, you don't know? I mean, what was the age range? What are they into? And that's where using social media and advertising and data points are so much more efficient for the same. I mean, if you took that money and you put it into an online campaign instead, you would do far better. Your reach would be far better. But
yeah, I think it's like $10 million, I think, for an advert during the Super Bowl, something like that.
Which is ridiculous.
Insane. Yeah.
It's so much. You don't need that. You can get the same sort of, and what? Sure. You can say like we had a Super Bowl commercial. That's great. I mean, there's a level of like prestige that goes with saying that. But if you want, actual outcomes, you need to play Moneyball, right?
Yeah, well, that's like I don't know if you've seen it recently. There was it was a viral video, but it was talking about Mr. Beast being offered $1 billion, for his channel, and he turned it down. And they used the metrics from Super Bowl being at like 10 million advert to work out like how much like his company's worth in terms of like advertising power through the amount of views that he gets, and that's only on his main channel. And yeah, it turned out like $1 billion is a really, really low evaluation for Mr. Beast's channel, even just that one channel.
It wasn't for the channel, it was for the entire Mr. Beast empire.
Oh yeah, okay, there you go.
That includes Mr. Beast Burger, and it includes Feastables, and I don't think it was a real offer. I think it was somebody going, hey, how much would you sell your company for $1 billion, for $100 million, or $1 billion? I think it was a hyperbole conversation, not a real offering that he turned down.
Right. Yeah, even then, I could totally see him saying no to that. It's like one of the incredible things, I love, this is one of the things I sort of love about influencers and going through YouTube and all this other stuff, is that when I see a particular niche or a particular content creator and they're doing particularly well, I love to deep dive on their content to really find out like how they're achieving like their success through their niche. And someday I'm going to apply it like into my own person, into myself rather than the companies I work for. And so yeah, and that's one of the things that really, really piques my interest. And yeah, one of the things that I love about Mr. Beast, and it sort of goes to show how big the brand is that he's gone to a lot of effort to create multiple different language versions of his channel. So he was saying, prior to that, he only had the Mr. Beast channel, which was obviously dominantly in English. And yes, he was getting hundreds of millions of views. But, at some point he realized that actually the majority of the world don't speak, English. There's a very, very large percentage of people out there that obviously speak other languages. So, yeah, he went to all that effort to make, a Spanish version, a Portuguese version, an Asian, Indian, whatever else. And so, yeah, they've got a huge amount of views on those channels as well. So you can only start to Yeah, it must be mind blowing the amount of revenue that he makes. Even versus like what he puts into to make his videos, which is easily 1 million plus per video nowadays.
Well,
So
it
it's just insane.
gets even better because now you can just upload different dub tracks for your video now. You don't have to have separate channels, each in a different language. You just upload the individual audio tracks to replace the current audio that you're listening to, because he's doing it dub anyway. And now instead of being on 5, 6, 7 different channels for different languages, he can now be on one central channel and just have all the languages right there and then.
Yeah, that's how it should be. Just like with Netflix, Crunchyroll, all of those other streaming platforms that give you the decent ones give you multiple audio, track to. Well, it's not really down to them. I suppose it's down to the people that are making the videos and the movies, to have those other releases. But generally, they always do have those other languages included, obviously, or at least the subtitles. But yeah, I think that's just amazing when you can get your YouTube channel to that sort of size that even warrants doing that. But it's also now, especially with AI, becoming so easy to be able to achieve that and to dub your own content that even the smallest content creator can easily achieve that as well, right? So I think that's like a big part of where we're going. We're going to start seeing that a lot more with all content creators. Are you both sat there thinking now, like, yeah, I need to go do a Spanish version of my, your content? Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Yeah, you don't have to wait to be a large creator to do those things. I started to create localized content like that years ago by hiring someone who would do the subtitles and translate do the captions and then translate and add subtitles to each and every one of my videos. And that really helped me to, whenever I had a video that was popular in a specific country, I would immediately hire somebody to translate the captions into that language from that country so that I could boost those viewers. And there is this company that I worked with for about 3 years. And they were doing just what we were talking about a few seconds ago, which is translating and dubbing using AI tools and automating that. And this was many years ago before AI got the boost that it got in the last few months. And they're called papercup.ai. And they focus mainly on like news channels and instructional tutorials, things like that, because this is content that is so easy to translate and to localize, because it is something that people look for, regardless of whatever country they're in and whatever language they speak. So it's just super duper easy to translate that type of content. But you don't have to be a large creator like Mr. Beast to start thinking about those kinds of things, because we have so many tools and so many resources now that we can make our content accessible to more people easily.
Yeah, I freaking love that. Yeah, I mean, we have bounty programs, with Mad to translate, our content essentially. So yeah, we pay our community members, or at least a select few, that are very viable at being able to do it, for those translation bits as well. And we're sort of adding, or going to be adding more of that into Zeely or Crew Free, depending on how you know it. So yeah, having that, hitting that wider audience is like a must. And especially for a Web3 project, especially like what we're trying to do, a play to earn game, which generally they do better in non-English speaking native countries generally. So it's a big part of it.
Next week, when we should continue on this conversation and talk about AI tools that can be used to supercharge your content, either via editing or visual or adding captions. Anyway, it is past our close time. We do have to shut down. This is a weekly show that we do every single Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please adjust for your time zone. Anyway, be sure to follow one of the people on the stage so you can be notified of when the next show is. And of course, this is an open conversation. So if next week you have something to add to the conversation, please feel free to come up. We would love your unique sense of purpose and view and insights. Anyway, have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.